Human fleet enters the war zone. The enemy's destruction is immediate. Becomes reality as Admiral Park unleashes Protocol Omega. Nanobots infiltrating and crippling the Zephyrian bioships from within. As the massive apex predator, dreadnoughts convulse helplessly. Earth's fleet hammers them with kinetic weapons. The wounded Dauntless makes the ultimate sacrifice, its reactor detonating inside the adapting flagship, securing humanity's decisive victory. The silence of space was deceptive. Admiral Elena Park knew this better than anyone, as she stood on the command bridge of the EAS Intrepid, flagship of Earth's vanguard fleet. Her dark eyes scanned the tactical display, where countless red dots represented the advancing Zephyrian Empire forces. The holographic projection showed the northern quadrant of the Proxima system, where the last Galactic Alliance defensive stations were on the verge of collapse. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. "All ships report combat ready." "Admiral," responded Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Lee, her executive officer. His tall frame stood rigidly at attention, the blue light of the tactical display reflecting off his features. "The fleet is in formation, awaiting your orders." It was the year 2537, and humanity had finally been granted permission to enter the main theater of war. The Galactic Alliance, a confederation of 17 sapient species, had been fighting a losing battle against the Zephyrian Empire for decades. The bioorganic ships of the Zephyrians had cut a swath of destruction through dozens of star systems, their adaptable technology consistently outmaneuvering the Alliance's conventional weaponry. Until now, Earth Alliance ships had been relegated to support roles, defensive positions, and escort missions. Politicians and alien admirals had deemed human military technology too primitive and unreliable for frontline combat against the sophisticated Zephyrian forces. But desperation had a way of changing minds. Admiral Park turned to face the viewscreen that dominated the bridge's forward wall. Beyond it lay the vastness of space, punctuated by the distant glow of Proxima's star and the scattered remnants of what had once been the Alliance's primary defensive line. Somewhere beyond that defensive line, the main Zephyrian fleet waited, preparing for their final push. "Communications. Open a channel to all Earth Vanguard ships," she ordered, straightening her navy blue uniform. The golden insignia of Earth Alliance, a stylized planet with a sword and olive branch, gleamed under the bridge lights. "Channel open, Admiral." Park took a deep breath, feeling the eyes of her bridge crew upon her. This moment would be remembered in human history, one way or another. "This is Admiral Park to all Earth Vanguard vessels. For years, we have watched from the sidelines as the Zephyrian Empire has devastated world after world. We've been told our methods are too crude, our weapons too basic, our tactics too unpredictable. Today, the Alliance will learn what humanity brings to this fight." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her crew, humans who had trained relentlessly for this moment, who carried the hopes of Earth and her colonies. "We are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. Show them what Earth is capable of. Park out." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Colonel Lee approached her, datapad in hand. "Admiral, incoming priority transmission from Earth Alliance Command." Park accepted the datapad, her eyes quickly scanning the message. Her expression remained neutral, but a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "Breakthrough and immediate destruction," she read aloud. "Command is giving us free rein to employ all tactical options." "All options?" Lee's eyebrows rose slightly. "Including Protocol Omega?" "Especially Protocol Omega," Park confirmed, returning the datapad. "Alert Chief Engineer Wu. Tell her to prepare the kinetic delivery systems. And get me Lieutenant Agni. His Special Forces teams need to be ready for boarding operations." "Yes, Admiral," Lee responded, turning to relay the orders. Park returned her attention to the tactical display. The Vanguard fleet consisted of 37 warships, a small force compared to the hundreds of vessels the Zephyrians could field. but each human ship carried weaponry that had been specifically designed with this enemy in mind. The bridge's alert system suddenly blared to life, red warning lights washing over the command center. "Proximity alert," called out the sensor officer. "Multiple Zephyrian signatures detected entering the system. Count is 150 vessels. Bioorganic configuration consistent with their Vanguard fleet." "So it begins," Park murmured. She straightened her shoulders and raised her voice. "Battle stations. Bring the fleet to combat readiness. Weapon systems online. Deploy defensive screens." Around her, the bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers relayed commands and monitored systems. The deck beneath her feet hummed as the Intrepid's massive engines powered up to combat levels. Lieutenant Colonel Lee returned to her side, his expression grim. "The Alliance command ship Luminous Harmony is requesting our immediate withdrawal. They claim the Zephyrian force is too large for our fleet to engage." Park's jaw tightened. "Send this response. The Earth Vanguard appreciates their concern, but will hold position as ordered by Earth Alliance Command. We will not retreat." As the message was transmitted, Park moved to the central tactical station. The holographic display showed the approaching Zephyrian ships, biological monstrosities that resembled predatory sea creatures from Earth's oceans, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent energy. "Tactical analysis," she demanded. The tactical officer, a young woman with cropped blonde hair, responded immediately. "Enemy vessels are in standard attack formation. Biosignatures indicate they're adapting their hull composition, likely in response to previous Alliance weapon impacts. They're approximately 8 minutes from optimal engagement range." Park nodded, her mind already formulating the battle plan. "Implement Thunderbolt Protocol. I want firing solutions for all kinetic batteries. Coordinate with missile control for synchronized impact. Let's show them why humanity has survived every threat we've ever faced." As her orders rippled through the fleet, Admiral Park took her command chair, feeling the weight of Earth's future settling on her shoulders. The Zephyrians were coming, and this time they would face something they had never encountered before: human ingenuity unleashed without restraint. "We will not back down," she whispered to herself. "Not today. Not ever." The approaching Zephyrian Vanguard had no idea what was about to hit them. The tension on the bridge of the EAS Intrepid was palpable as the Zephyrian Vanguard drew closer. Admiral Park's fingers tapped a steady rhythm on the arm of her command chair, her mind calculating probabilities and outcomes. "Enemy fleet entering maximum weapons range in 30 seconds, announced the tactical officer. "Comms, patch me through to Chief Engineer Wu," ordered Park. The view screen shifted to show the face of Chief Engineer Hana Wu, her features illuminated by the red emergency lighting of the engineering deck. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked frantically at her station. "Wu here, Admiral. Status on the kinetic systems?" Wu's fingers flew across her control panel. "Railguns at full charge, mass drivers aligned and loaded with tungsten-depleted uranium rounds. Kinetic penetrators prepped for launch. And the special packages?" A tight smile appeared on Wu's face. "Miniaturized nuclear warheads integrated with the second wave of penetrators. Ready on your command." "Excellent," Park nodded with satisfaction. "Stand by." The view screen returned to the tactical display as Lieutenant Colonel Lee moved to Park's side. "Admiral, the Zephyrians are launching their first wave of biomissiles." "As expected," Park replied calmly. "They always open with the same tactic. Defensive screens to maximum. Point defense systems engaged." Across the human fleet, automated defense turrets whirred to life, targeting the incoming biomissiles, writhing, tentacled projectiles that could attach to a ship's hull and bore through even the toughest conventional armor. "Now," Park said, her voice eerily calm. "Let's show them something new. Execute Thunderbolt." Lieutenant Colonel Lee relayed the command, and throughout the Earth Vanguard fleet, massive electromagnetic railguns extended from previously concealed ports along each ship's hull. Unlike the energy weapons favored by most Alliance species, these were purely kinetic, a technology considered outdated by most spacefaring civilizations. But Park and Earth's military strategists had recognized something the Alliance had missed. The Zephyrians' bioorganic hulls, while highly resistant to energy weapons and conventional explosives, had never been tested against hypervelocity kinetic impacts. "All ships, fire railguns! First wave, now!" The silence of space couldn't carry the sound, but Park could almost hear the thunderous discharge as 37 ships simultaneously fired their main railgun batteries. Each projectile, a 200-kilogram tungsten uranium rod, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed within seconds. On the tactical display, Park watched as the blue streaks representing their kinetic rounds crossed the distance to the Zephyrian formation in mere moments. There was no time for the enemy to evade. The impact was immediate and devastating. The hypervelocity rods tore through the bioorganic hulls of the Zephyrian ships as if they were tissue paper. The tremendous kinetic energy converted instantaneously to heat and light, causing massive internal explosions that ripped the alien vessels apart from the inside. "Direct hits across the board," exclaimed the tactical officer, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. 23 enemy vessels destroyed outright, 14 more showing critical hull breaches and system failures. Park nodded, unsurprised. Their bioarmor evolved to withstand energy dispersion. It never needed to defend against pure kinetic force. She turned to Lee. "Second wave. Coordinate with missile control." As the railguns recycled for another salvo, the missile tubes along the human ship's flanks opened. Unlike conventional missiles, these were specialized kinetic penetrators designed to follow the railgun rounds into the same impact points, driving deeper into the damaged Zephyrian vessels. "Missiles away!" Hundreds of penetrator missiles streaked toward the already damaged Zephyrian formation. The aliens, still reeling from the unexpected effectiveness of the railgun attack, attempted evasive maneuvers, but the human targeting systems, guided by advanced predictive algorithms, adjusted in real time. The second wave hit with surgical precision. The penetrators drove into the wounds already opened by the railgun rounds, burrowing deep into the biological cores of the Zephyrian ships before detonating their compact nuclear warheads. Space lit up with dozens of nuclear blossoms, the radiation and heat destroying the Zephyrian vessels from within. What had been a formidable enemy vanguard was rapidly disintegrating into biological debris. "Enemy formation breaking up," reported the tactical officer. "They're attempting to regroup, but their command structure appears compromised." "They never expected this," Lee said quietly, standing beside Park. "They thought we would use the same ineffective energy weapons the rest of the Alliance relies on." Park's expression remained impassive, but satisfaction glinted in her eyes. "Humanity learned long ago, Colonel. When conventional methods fail, change the rules of engagement." She rose from her command chair, moving to the tactical display. "Status of our fleet?" "Minimal damage, Admiral," Lee reported. 3 ships reporting minor hull breaches from biomissile impacts. Point defense systems held at 92% effectiveness. No casualties reported. Park nodded. But she knew this was only the beginning. The main Zephyrian fleet will have detected the destruction of their vanguard. They'll adapt. We need to press our advantage while we have it. She turned to the communications officer. "Signal Lieutenant Agni. Tell him to prepare his special forces teams for immediate deployment." As the command was relayed, Park studied the tactical map. The remnants of the Zephyrian vanguard were in disarray, but scattered readings indicated they were already beginning to adapt their hull composition, likely attempting to develop resistance to kinetic impacts. "They learn quickly," she murmured. "But so do we." Lieutenant Colonel Lee approached with a fresh tactical assessment. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the surviving Zephyrian vessels. They appear to be evolving their weapon systems in real time." "Expected," Park replied. Their biological technology allows for rapid adaptation. That's why we need to maintain the initiative. She turned to address the bridge crew. Commence Phase 2. Deploy strike teams. Throughout the fleet, specialized assault shuttles launched from their bays, each carrying a team of Earth's most elite Special Forces operators. Lieutenant Agni, commander of these forces, led from the front, his shuttle racing toward the largest remaining Zephyrian vessel. Inside the lead shuttle, Agni addressed his team through the tactical comm. Remember your training. The Zephyrians rely on central neural clusters to coordinate their bioships. Take out those clusters, and the ships become disoriented. The strike teams, clad in advanced combat exoskeletons, carried specialized weapons designed specifically for close-quarters combat within the organic corridors of Zephyrian vessels. Flamers that could sear biological tissue, sonic disruptors that could shatter neural pathways, and molecular blades that could slice through even the toughest biomatter. As the shuttles approached their targets, Zephyrian defensive tentacles lashed out, trying to snare the small craft. But the human pilots, trained in extreme evasive maneuvers, dodged with remarkable precision, using the Zephyrians' own predictive attack patterns against them. Back on the Intrepid, Admiral Park monitored the assault team's progress. Maintain covering fire. Don't let those ships concentrate their defenses. The human fleet continued its barrage, forcing the Zephyrian vessels to divide their attention between defending against the kinetic bombardment and the approaching strike teams. It was a uniquely human strategy, combining overwhelming firepower with precise surgical strikes. Lieutenant Agni's shuttle was the first to make contact, attaching to the hull of the largest remaining Zephyrian ship with specialized boarding clamps. Cutting torches flared as the assault team created an entry point through the pulsating organic material. "We're in," Agni reported over the comm, moving toward the neural center. Inside the alien vessel, the strike team encountered the true horror of Zephyrian biology. The corridors were living tissue, pulsing with fluids and neural energy. Defense mechanisms activated, tentacles lashed out, acidic compounds sprayed from wall orifices, and bioconstructed guardian organisms converged on the intruders. But the human operators had trained for this, using flame units to sear attacking tentacles and sonic disruptors to temporarily paralyze the ship's neural responses. They moved with methodical precision, following the increasing neural energy signatures toward the ship's command center. "Approaching the primary neural cluster," Agni reported, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding his team. "Resistance is heavy but manageable." On the Intrepid's bridge, Park nodded with grim satisfaction. "All ships, prepare for Phase 3. When those neural clusters go offline, I want every remaining Zephyrian vessel targeted simultaneously." Chief Engineer Wu's voice came over the comm. "Admiral, I've analyzed the sensor data from the initial railgun impacts. The Zephyrians are already adapting, creating denser organic armor layers with impact-absorbing properties. Can our current kinetic weapons still penetrate?" "Yes, but with diminishing effectiveness. I recommend switching to the heavy penetrators for the next wave." Park considered this. The heavy penetrators were their most powerful kinetic weapons, massive projectiles designed to transfer catastrophic energy into targets. They had limited ammunition for these specialized weapons. "Approved. Prepare the heavy penetrators. Target the largest remaining vessels first." As she gave the order, the tactical display updated with new information. Lieutenant Agni's team had reached the neural center of their target ship and were planting specialized disruptor devices designed to scramble the biological command functions. "Disruptors planted," came Agni's terse report. "Withdrawing to extraction point. Detonation in 30 seconds. All teams, complete your objectives and withdraw," Park ordered. "Fleet, prepare to capitalize on the coming neural disruption." Across the battlefield, the human strike teams fought their way back to their extraction points, leaving behind devices that would temporarily paralyze the Zephyrian ship's ability to coordinate their defenses or offensive capabilities. The tactical officer's voice cut through the tension. "Admiral, New contacts detected entering the system. Mass readings consistent with the main Zephyrian battle fleet. Park's expression hardened. The real test was about to begin. How many? 500 vessels, Admiral, including 5 Apex Predator-class dreadnoughts. A momentary hush fell over the bridge. The Apex Predators were the largest bioships in the Zephyrian arsenal, each capable of engaging entire Alliance battle groups single-handedly. No Alliance fleet had ever successfully destroyed one. Park's voice remained steady. Recall all strike teams immediately. Prepare for full tactical withdrawal to Rally Point Epsilon. Lee looked at her in surprise. Admiral! A small, predatory smile appeared on Park's face. The strike teams were never meant to win this battle, Colonel. They were meant to gather intelligence on the Zephyrians' neural architecture and plant specialized transmitters inside their ships. Understanding dawned on Lee's face. You're planning to use Protocol Omega? Indeed. Park turned to the communications officer. Encrypt channel to Earth Command. Request authorization for Protocol Omega. Priority Alpha. As the message was sent, the tactical display showed the first of the disruptor devices detonating within the Zephyrian ships. The effect was immediate. The alien vessels' coordinated movements became erratic, their defensive systems firing randomly into space, their propulsion systems pulsing irregularly. Strike teams report successful extraction. Admiral, announced the operations officer. All shuttles returning to their respective ships. Good. Park's attention remained fixed on the tactical display, where the massive signatures of the approaching Zephyrian main fleet were growing larger by the moment. Now, we see if Earth's greatest gamble pays off. The communications officer looked up. Admiral, Earth Command has transmitted authorization for Protocol Omega. General Takahashi sends his personal endorsement. Park nodded solemnly. Prepare the fleet for immediate execution of Protocol Omega. This is what we came here to do. As her orders were relayed throughout the fleet, Admiral Park stared at the approaching Zephyrian armada. Humanity was about to change the course of this war, one way or another. The main Zephyrian battle fleet emerged from the darkness of space, like a nightmare given form. 500 bioships, each a unique horror of evolutionary engineering, spread across the battlefield in a display of overwhelming force. At the center of their formation floated the 5 Apex Predator dreadnoughts, massive living vessels that resembled primordial sea creatures, their hulls stretching nearly 5 kilometers from end to end. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Admiral Park watched the tactical display with focused intensity. The neural disruptors planted by Lieutenant Agni's teams had temporarily crippled the remaining Vanguard ships, but the main Zephyrian fleet was untouched and combat-ready. All strike teams have returned to their ships, reported Lieutenant Colonel Lee. Fleet is at 97% combat effectiveness. And Protocol Omega? The package is ready for deployment. Chief Engineer Wu reports all systems green. Park nodded, her expression resolute. Open fleet-wide channel. The communications officer complied, and Park addressed her fleet once more. This is Admiral Park. The Zephyrian main fleet has arrived exactly as anticipated. Their numbers are great, but remember what humanity has always understood. It's not the size of the force that matters, but how you apply it. She paused, her eyes scanning the faces of her bridge crew. Today, we will demonstrate why Earth was hesitant to join this war, not because we feared the enemy, but because we feared what we might become in defeating them. She straightened, her voice firm with conviction. Execute Protocol Omega, for Earth and all her children. Throughout the human fleet, specialized missile tubes opened, revealing weapons unlike any the Alliance had previously deployed. Each ship launched a single, deceptively small projectile toward the approaching Zephyrian formation. Omega packages away, confirmed the weapons officer. Tracking nominal. The Zephyrians, detecting the launch, redirected their defensive systems to intercept. Biolasers slashed through space, and defensive organisms were released, specialized interceptors designed to neutralize conventional missiles. But the Omega packages were neither conventional nor truly missiles. They were delivery vehicles for Earth's most closely guarded technological achievement. "Packages entering dispersal range," announced the tactical officer. "Zephyrian point defenses engaging, minimal interceptions, dispersal in 3, 2, 1. Each package suddenly burst open, releasing thousands of microscopic devices into space, nanobots specifically engineered to interface with and disrupt the Zephyrian biotechnology. "Nanobots dispersing according to pattern," reported Chief Engineer Wu over the comm. "Transmitters planted by the strike teams are broadcasting the activation signal." Park watched the tactical display, where the nanobots, too small to be visible but represented by a fine blue mist on the sensors, spread throughout the Zephyrian fleet. The tiny machines were programmed to seek out the neural pathways that controlled the bioships, attaching to them and disrupting their functions in ways the Zephyrians had never encountered. "First penetration confirmed," Wu reported, excitement evident in her voice. "Nanobots are successfully bypassing the bioship's immune responses, using the data gathered by Lieutenant Agni's teams. The effect began subtly, but rapidly accelerated. The precise, coordinated movements of the Zephyrian fleet began to falter. Ships drifted out of formation. Defensive systems fired randomly or shut down entirely. Propulsion systems pulsed erratically, sending vessels careening into one another. "It's working," Lee whispered, watching the chaos unfold. Park's expression remained controlled, but her eyes gleamed with fierce satisfaction. "Now, Colonel, while they're vulnerable, execute Combined Ordnance Storm." Lai relayed the command, and the Earth Vanguard fleet initiated their primary attack sequence, a devastating combination of railgun fire, nuclear-tipped penetrators, and high-yield thermonuclear devices. The railguns fired first, their hypervelocity rounds punching through the now undefended hulls of the Zephyrian vessels. Unlike the Vanguard ships, which had begun adapting to kinetic impacts, the main fleet had no such protection. The tungsten uranium rods tore through biomatter, leaving gaping wounds in the living ships. Following immediately behind came the penetrator missiles, designed to follow the paths carved by the railgun rounds. They burrowed deep into the Zephyrian vessels before detonating their nuclear payloads, causing catastrophic internal damage. Finally, the thermonuclear devices, compact fusion bombs with yields measured in megatons, detonated at strategic points throughout the Zephyrian formation. The flash of multiple nuclear detonations lit up the battlefield, temporarily overloading visual sensors. When the tactical display cleared, the result was undeniable. Nearly a third of the Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed outright. Another third drifted in space, critically damaged and unable to coordinate their biological repair functions due to the nanobots infesting their systems. Even the mighty Apex Predator dreadnoughts showed signs of distress. Their massive hulls convulsed as internal systems fought against the nanobot infiltration. 2 of the 5 dreadnoughts had suffered direct hits from multiple heavy penetrators, their biomatter rupturing in massive breaches. "Continue the attack," Park ordered, her voice level despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. "Focus fire on the Apex Predators. Don't give them time to adapt." The Earth fleet pressed their advantage, concentrating their fire on the flagship of the Zephyrian force, the largest Apex Predator. Railgun rounds hammered its hull in rapid succession, each impact weakening its structural integrity. Penetrator missiles followed, driving deep into the wounds before detonating. The massive bioship thrashed in space, its tentacles lashing out blindly as its neural systems failed. Internal explosions rippled along its length, spewing biological matter into the vacuum. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we're losing contact with the EAS Dauntless. They're taking heavy fire from the remaining operational Zephyrian vessels." Park's jaw tightened. The Dauntless was one of their most powerful destroyers, commanded by Captain Srivastava, a close friend from her academy days. Divert the relentless and indomitable to support. Tell Captain Srivastava to withdraw to safe distance if necessary. Before the order could be relayed, the tactical display showed a massive energy surge from the wounded apex predator. "Incoming bioenergy discharge," shouted the tactical officer. "Massive power readings." "Evasive action," Park commanded, but there was no time. The apex predator released a final, desperate attack, a concentrated burst of bioenergy that sliced through space toward the Intrepid. The ship shuddered violently as the beam grazed its port side, overwhelming shields and scorching the hull. "Damage report," Park demanded, steadying herself against her command chair as the deck tilted beneath her. "Port shield generators offline," reported the damage control officer. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Emergency containment fields holding. Casualty reports coming in. 17 confirmed dead. 39 injured." Park absorbed the news with a grim expression. The first human casualties of this engagement, and likely not the last. "Maintain fire on that apex predator," she ordered. "I want it destroyed." The human fleet responded, unleashing another coordinated barrage against the wounded dreadnought. This time, the combined firepower proved too much. The apex predator's hull ruptured along multiple stress points. Biological matter exposed to vacuum began to freeze and die. And finally, the ship's central neural cluster overloaded. The explosion was spectacular. A combination of biological matter, energy containment failure, and the detonation of the ship's own weapon systems. The shockwave rippled outward, damaging nearby Zephyrian vessels and temporarily disrupting communications across the battlefield. "Target destroyed," announced the tactical officer, unable to contain a note of triumph. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Park's raised hand. "This battle isn't over," she reminded them. "Status of the remaining apex predators? 2 heavily damaged and showing minimal signs of coordinated activity. 1 attempting to withdraw. The last one appears to be reconfiguring its biosystems, possibly attempting to counter the nanobots." Park frowned. The Zephyrians' ability to adapt was their greatest strength. If they developed countermeasures to the nanobots, Protocol Omega's effectiveness would be severely diminished. "Focus all available firepower on the adapting dreadnought," she ordered. "We cannot allow them to develop a defense against our nanobots." As the fleet repositioned to comply, an urgent communication came through from the EAS Dauntless. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "Captain Srivastava reports critical damage. Their main reactor is destabilizing. They're initiating emergency protocols, but evacuation may be necessary." Park felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "Patch me through to the Dauntless." The view screen shifted to show the bridge of the destroyer, filled with smoke and emergency lighting. Captain Srivastava's face appeared, bloodied but determined. "Elena," he said, using her first name despite the formal setting. "The situation is worse than it appears. Reactor containment is failing. We have perhaps 5 minutes before catastrophic breach." "Evacuate your crew immediately," Park ordered without hesitation. "Get to the escape pods." Srivastava shook his head. "Most of our pods were damaged in the attack. We're loading as many as we can. But—" He left the grim reality unspoken. Park's mind raced, calculating options. "Set your autopilot to take the Dauntless directly into the adapting apex predator. If your reactor is going to breach, make it count." Srivastava nodded, a look of understanding passing between them. "It would be my honor, Admiral, for Earth." "For Earth," Park echoed softly. "Godspeed, Raj." The communication ended, and Park turned to Lieutenant Colonel Lee. "Order all ships to clear a path for the Dauntless, then pull back to minimum safe distance." The tactical display showed the wounded destroyer changing course, its engines flaring as it accelerated toward the adapting apex predator. Escape pods jettisoned from its hull, small specks against the vastness of space. "Escape pods away," reported the operations officer. 37 pods detected. Estimated personnel, 153 of 400 crew. Park's expression remained stoic, but her hands gripped the arms of her command chair with white-knuckled intensity. The loss of nearly 250 souls would weigh heavily on her conscience, but their sacrifice would not be in vain. The Dauntless, trailing debris and venting atmosphere, drove straight toward the heart of the Zephyrian dreadnought. The alien vessel, sensing the threat, attempted to maneuver away, but its damaged systems responded sluggishly. "Impact in 10 seconds," announced the tactical officer. The bridge fallen silent as they watched the destroyer's final journey. The Dauntless collided with the apex predator at full speed, its reinforced bow punching deep into the alien vessel's central mass. For a moment, the two ships remained joined together, like a dagger thrust into a wounded beast. Then, the Dauntless's reactor containment failed. The explosion was blinding, a miniature sun birthed in the void of space. The combined mass of both vessels was instantly vaporized, the shockwave expanding outward in a perfect sphere of destruction. Nearby, Zephyrian ships were caught in the blast, their biological hulls unable to withstand the intense heat and radiation. When the sensors cleared, a massive void existed where the apex predator had been. The adapting dreadnought was completely destroyed, along with dozens of smaller Zephyrian vessels that had been too close to the detonation. "The Dauntless," Lee whispered, staring at the emptiness on the tactical display. "They died as warriors," Park said quietly, "ensuring the enemy could not adapt to our tactics." She straightened in her chair. "Order rescue ships to recover the escape pods immediately, then reorganize the fleet for the final push." The battle continued to rage across the Proxima system. The human fleet, though smaller in number, maintained their tactical advantage through the combination of the nanobot infection and their devastating kinetic weapons. The remaining Zephyrian vessels, unable to coordinate effectively, fought individually, powerful but disorganized. One by one, the remaining apex predators were targeted and destroyed. The smaller Zephyrian vessels, seeing their command ships fall, began to retreat, withdrawing toward the outer system. After 6 hours of continuous combat, the bridge of the Intrepid had changed dramatically. Emergency repairs had patched the worst of the damage, but scorch marks still marred consoles, and several stations operated on backup systems. The crew, exhausted but determined, maintained their posts as the final phase of the battle unfolded. "Admiral," reported the tactical officer, "remaining Zephyrian vessels are in full retreat. They're attempting to regroup at the system's edge." Park studied the tactical display, where the once mighty Zephyrian fleet had been reduced to scattered groups of damaged vessels fleeing in disarray. "Pursuit course," she ordered. "Don't let them regroup or send distress signals to reinforcements." As the Earth fleet moved to comply, Chief Engineer Wu's voice came over the comm. "Admiral, I've analyzed the debris from the destroyed apex predators. There's something you should know." "Go ahead, Chief." "The biomatter shows signs of accelerated evolution, even in death. The last predator we destroyed was indeed developing countermeasures to our nanobots. Given another hour, it might have succeeded." Park exchanged a glance with Lee. "Then Captain Srivastava's sacrifice was even more crucial than we realized." "Yes, Admiral. But it also means the Zephyrians will adapt to this tactic. Protocol Omega won't be as effective next time." "Understood. We'll need new strategies for future engagements." Park turned back to the tactical situation. "For now, let's finish this battle decisively." The Earth fleet pursued the retreating Zephyrians, methodically destroying any vessel that couldn't outrun them. By the time the last enemy ship fled the system, the Proxima battlefield was littered with the drifting remnants of bioships, once living vessels now frozen in the vacuum of space. Admiral Park stood before the viewport on the Intrepid's bridge, gazing at the debris field that had once been the Zephyrian main fleet. The stars of Proxima shone through the scattered remains, pinpricks of light in the darkness. Lieutenant Colonel Lee approached, offering a data pad. "Final casualty report, Admiral." Park accepted it, her eyes scanning the numbers. The Earth Vanguard had lost 3 ships destroyed and 7 damaged beyond immediate repair. Total casualties: 712 dead, 1,453 injured. A heavy toll, but miraculous considering they had faced a force that outnumbered them more than 10 to 1. The Zephyrian losses: 427 vessels confirmed destroyed, including all 5 apex predators. Estimated casualties: incalculable. Their ships are biological constructs with integrated crew. Park nodded solemnly. This was not a moment for celebration, but for quiet acknowledgement of what had been achieved and what had been lost. "Order the fleet to recovery operations," she said. "I want all escape pods retrieved and all survivors accounted for. Then set course for Rendezvous Point Alpha. We'll regroup with the Alliance forces there." "Yes, Admiral." Lee hesitated. "The Alliance Command is requesting a full debriefing on our tactics and technology. They're particularly interested in Protocol Omega." A small, tight smile appeared on Park's face. "Tell them all, relevant information will be shared through proper Earth Alliance channels. Remind them that humanity is now an equal partner in this war, not a junior auxiliary." As Lee moved to relay her orders, Park returned her gaze to the stars. The victory at Proxima would reshape the Galactic Alliance's perception of humanity and their role in this conflict. No longer would Earth forces be relegated to the sidelines. They had proven their worth in the most decisive way possible. Yet Park took no joy in the destruction they had wrought. The Zephyrians were a formidable enemy, adaptable, intelligent, and determined. Today's tactics would not work again. The enemy would evolve, as they always did. The war was far from over. Her thoughts turned to Captain Srivastava and the crew of the Dauntless, friends and colleagues who had made the ultimate sacrifice. Their names would be remembered, their actions honored, and their deaths would fuel her determination to see this war through to its end. "Admiral," called the communications officer, interrupting her thoughts. "Incoming transmission from Earth Alliance Command. General Takahashi wishes to speak with you." Park straightened her uniform and moved back to her command chair. "Put him through." The view screen activated to show the stern face of General Kenji Takahashi, Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. His expression was serious, but a gleam of satisfaction showed in his eyes. "Admiral Park," he began formally, "I've received the preliminary reports of your engagement at Proxima. To say I'm impressed would be an understatement." "Thank you, General. The credit belongs to the men and women of this fleet. They performed above and beyond all expectations." Takahashi nodded. "Indeed they did. The Earth Council has reviewed the battle data. They've authorized the deployment of 3 additional Vanguard fleets to the front lines." Park's eyebrows rose slightly. 3 fleets? That's nearly half our total naval strength. The time for half measures is past. Humanity has demonstrated what we can contribute to this war. Now, we must follow through. Takahashi leaned forward. "You've opened the door, Admiral. The Zephyrians now know what humanity is capable of, and they will adapt. Our next encounters will be even more challenging." "We'll be ready, sir." "I know you will." Takahashi's expression softened slightly. "The loss of the Dauntless is keenly felt. Captain Srivastava was one of our finest." "He died ensuring our victory," Park said, the words catching slightly in her throat. "His sacrifice saved countless lives." "A hero's death," Takahashi agreed. "As for you, Admiral Park, return to Earth Alliance headquarters when you've completed recovery operations. The Council wishes to personally commend you and your officers." "And our next assignment, sir?" A grim smile appeared on Takahashi's face. "Intelligence reports suggest the Zephyrians are consolidating their forces in the Rigel sector. Once your fleet is repaired and reinforced, you'll be heading there to deliver another demonstration of humanity's resolve." "Understood, General. We won't let Earth down." "I know you won't. Takahashi out." As the transmission ended, Park sat quietly for a moment, contemplating the road ahead. The battle at Proxima had been won. But the war would continue, with humanity now at its center. Lieutenant Colonel Lee approached, offering a cup of coffee. "You haven't rested in 36 hours, Admiral." Park accepted the cup gratefully. "Neither of you, Colonel." They stood together in companionable silence, watching as recovery vessels moved through the debris field, searching for survivors and retrieving the dead. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Lee asked quietly. "Deploying Protocol Omega? Once the Alliance sees what our nanobots can do, they may fear us as much as they fear the Zephyrians." Park sipped her coffee, considering the question. "The Alliance feared us from the beginning. Marcus, why do you think they kept us on the sidelines for so long? Not because our technology was primitive, but because they recognized our potential. And now they know both our capability and our restraint. We could have deployed Protocol Omega years ago, but we waited until we had no choice." She set down her cup. "That's the difference between us and the Zephyrians. We understand the responsibility that comes with power." Lee nodded slowly. "What happens when the Zephyrians adapt to our tactics?" "They always do, eventually." A determined look settled on Park's features. "Then we'll adapt faster. That's what humanity has always done. Face challenges, overcome them, and emerge stronger." She glanced around the bridge, at the dedicated men and women who had fought through this historic battle. "That's what makes us human." The recovery operations continued through the following hours, ships moving methodically through the battlefield. Escape pods were retrieved, survivors treated, and the dead prepared for their final journey home. Throughout it all, Admiral Park remained on the bridge, overseeing every detail, honoring the sacrifice of each life lost. As the Earth Vanguard fleet finally prepared to depart the Proxima system, leaving behind a graveyard of Zephyrian vessels, Park stood at the viewport one last time. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if acknowledging the victory that had been won here. "Set course for Rendezvous Alpha," she ordered. "Standard formation. Let's go home." The engines of the Earth fleet hummed to life, propelling the ships away from the battlefield. They left behind destruction, but carried with them hope. Hope that the tide of this long war might finally be turning. In the vastness of space, word of the human victory at Proxima spread rapidly through Alliance communication channels. Species that had long dismissed humanity as primitive now spoke of them with newfound respect. The Zephyrians, for the first time since their expansion began, found themselves on the defensive. And at the center of it all was Admiral Elena Park and the Earth Vanguard fleet, proof that when humanity entered the war zone, the enemy's destruction could indeed be immediate. Yet, even as they celebrated this victory, Park knew that the war was far from over. Intelligence reports indicated that the remaining Zephyrian forces were regrouping, adapting, preparing for the next encounter. And this time, they would be ready for humanity's tactics. But so would humanity be ready for theirs. In laboratories across Earth and her colonies, scientists and engineers were already developing new weapons, new strategies, new ways to overcome the Zephyrian threat. The ingenuity that had defined humanity throughout its history would continue to be their greatest asset. As the Intrepid jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the Proxima system behind, Admiral Park made a silent promise to those who had fallen. Their sacrifice would not be in vain. Humanity had taken its first step into the greater war, and they would not stop until victory was achieved. The battle was won, the war continued, and humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with among the stars.